What's going on, guys? June here, and in this video we're going to be covering the first half of the Liberation of Mazcab raid with a guide for Beastmaster Durzag. Now this is a really complicated fight and there's a lot of different things going on in different roles, so I'm not actually going to talk about the equipment setup or abilities or anything for specific individuals. I'm more going to cover it from like a top level strategic standpoint, and I'm pretty sure you guys can figure out what kind of gear setup you're going to need. Obviously you want tier 90 weapons, and DPS people are going to use power armor, whereas tanks are going to use tank armor and a shield. It's really simple. So with that said, let's get on with the actual fight. When your team's ready to begin, have someone speak to the goby in the center of the arena to free the rest of the gobies from the prison. They're going to run around the arena chaotically, and they'll do their best to assist you in the first part of the fight, which is a combat wave style minigame. You're going to come across two types of NPCs in the first part of this. The first enemy type is Chargers. These are level 104 with 15k HP. They only use melee attacks, but they can hit anywhere from 500 to 2000 if you're not praying against them. The difficult thing with Chargers is that when they engage you in combat, they surge underneath your character first, and they deal one hit before you actually are able to attack them. This has some significant KO potential because they tend to be brought out in groups, and if you're not praying or not paying attention, the hits can stack pretty bad and take you out. The other enemy type is Eret, and even though they're still level 122 with the same HP as Slayer Eret, these are not normal Slayer Eret. They have serious KO potential. They can hit up to 4500 with melee or ranged if they're using their special, so you need to pay very close attention to what's on you when, and make sure you adjust your prayers, and even use devotion if you have it. You definitely want to make these the top priority among your group. The team will continue battling these simple waves of enemies until the counter at the top has a total of 22 enemies remaining. At this point, Durzag's first attack dog, Corms, will spawn at the west end of the arena. He's level 900 with 500,000 HP, and he can hit up to 5,500 with melee or ranged attacks, though you can reduce these down to about 500 to 2,000 with prayer. If you stand outside melee distance, Corms won't melee you, and his attacks hit multiple players, so you want to dedicate a specific person to tank Corms, have them provoke and stand far away from the group to cause Corms to face away and only attack the tank. He's significantly less dangerous than the Iret, so only DPS Corms when the Iret are dead, and you should be able to, as a group, kill Corms before Durzag actually spawns. He also has a special attack which involves attacking your legs and reducing the ability of the tank to move, but this is essentially ignorable. The waves of enemies will continue until the counter at the top fully depletes, at which point Durzag and his first pet will spawn at the north end of the arena. Beastmaster Durzag is level 2000 with 1.5 million HP. He uses both melee and ranged attacks, and his max hit changes throughout the fight. His base hit will hit about 5,000 as long as you're not praying, but towards the end of the fight he can hit up to 20,000 damage with no prayer. He deals increased damage if any of his pets are nearby. He can cancel defensive abilities, and also whoever is tanking his attacks is going to cause his rage to progressively increase over time, causing his damage to go up. So you need to have at least 2 designated tanks to alternate Durzag for the majority of the fight. Durzag also has 3 primary special attacks. The first will affect any player nearby enough to be dragged into melee distance, similar to the way that Araxor does for the Cleave special attack, and he will rapidly smash the ground for high melee damage to anyone in the area. The best way to escape this is simply to use Surge to get out of the distance of the attack. The first 1 or 2 hits will always hit you, so you will be dealt up to 6,000 damage. Just eat to compensate for that. You can use Anticipation to prevent being dragged in, but this attack is so infrequent that that's not necessarily justified. For his second special attack, Durzag will throw a variable number of bombs around the team. These will start to chase players. They can easily be disarmed by clicking on them, but if they're not disarmed, they'll explode for 2,000 magic damage each to anything nearby, including Durzag's own minions. Durzag's final special attack is to throw cages. These can fall on players, preventing their movement, or they can contain chargers. If they do contain chargers, they should be opened by the DPS crew, and depending on how many chargers are spawned, they can either be ignored or killed depending on your team's preference. When Durzag spawns, he will bring with him one of his remaining 2 attack dogs. Which dog it is chosen at random. They're both level 900 with 700,000 HP, and they have a similar max hit of about 5,500, though Tuz uses magic and melee attacks, and Krar uses ranged and melee attacks. Each of these pets should have a designated tank on the team, and they have a few special attacks, the first and most frustrating of which is that whatever player triggers specific points in Durzag's HP will cause the pet to randomly surge into that player, and at that point tanks essentially need to provoke and run back away to lure the pet away from Durzag and also away from the DPS crew to prevent everyone from taking large amounts of damage. They also have other special attacks which involve basic bleed damage, which you can freedom away, or preventing the tank from moving, but it's nothing significant and can essentially be ignored. When Durzag and the pet spawn, the cages around the perimeter of the arena also refill with chargers, so the first thing the two base tanks should do is provoke Beastmaster and pull him into the southeast corner of the arena. The pet tank should also take whichever dog spawns and bring him to the northeast corner of the arena. The DPS crew will then travel to the northwest of the arena and empty all of the cages out and kill the chargers. When that corner is cleared, they'll go to the southwest and clear that area of the chargers, and then the DPS crew and the tanks will switch sides, dragging the pet to the northwest and Beastmaster to the southwest, so that the DPS crew can clear out the northeast and the southeast corners. Once the charger cages have been emptied and cleared, the base tank should continue to maintain Durzag's aggression away from the rest of the team, and the DPS crew should DPS down whichever dog he spawned to approximately 100,000 HP. At that point, they can refocus their efforts on Durzag until he reaches 1,250,000 HP, at which point he spawns the second pet. When he spawns the second pet, he will yell, "Here, boy," and the DPS crew should DPS down the second pet to about 100,000 HP as well. When both pets are at around 100,000 HP, they can continue focusing on Durzag until he reaches 750,000 HP. At this point, he becomes invincible until the remaining pets have been killed. This is the opportunity for the DPS team to take out both pets, at which point Durzag's DPS rises dramatically. Luckily, this also means that the two pet tanks are freed up and can cycle in as backup base tanks. His DPS is so high at this point that he's essentially able to one-hit KO anybody who is not using effective defensive abilities. So for the remainder of his 750,000 HP, you're going to have at least 3 or 4 tanks cycling Provoke, Devotion, and then Barricade. This will prevent all damage, and as long as you can coordinate effectively to have Provokes done at the right time, nobody's in any major danger, and as long as the DPS crew can continue to deal with the charger cages as they spawn, and the bombs as they're thrown, the fight should actually be over relatively quickly, as the primary target is Durzag, and he only has 750,000 HP remaining. Thank you guys so much for watching. Obviously this video is coming out the same week as the release of Raid, so there's probably tons of mechanics that people haven't discovered yet, and also a bunch of strategies that people are going to come up with in the next few weeks that are going to make this fight a whole lot easier. But I wanted to get this video out quickly because I know a lot of you guys have lost comp cape, or at least you maybe just want to participate in raids and you want to have at least a vague idea of what you're doing, and this is definitely more than enough information to get strong and consistent kills. I've been doing this all week long with tons and tons of people, and I wanted to offer a big thanks to everybody that I've met and that I've done this with. It has been super fun, honestly, and I really love the social element of this. I've been on TeamSpeak with probably 200 or 300 different people this week, and I'm sure that I forgot some people, but some of the most important ones are definitely up on the screen. Big thanks to you guys. Big thanks to everybody I missed. I hope this video was useful to you viewers, and I will be back as soon as I can with a part 2 guide for Yakamaru, and I'll see you then.